When Skepta wore a first direct, what was it called? Sports Direct. His first direct. Sorry. That's it. Sorry.
It's telephone banking.
Yeah, when Skepta wore a Sports Direct. Oh shit! Let me start that again. Yeah, that's fucking hilarious.
Style has long been an obsession, a compulsion, a religion for the youth of Britain. Every generation provides its own sartorial tribes, who find empowerment and excitement through new looks and different beats. From Doc Martens and two-tone, to jelly shoes and American jazz funk, all the way to Supreme and Odd Future, these disparate scenes come together to tell the story of an alternative Britain. A Britain that has defiantly rejected the culture that it has been offered to create something of its own.
Important symbols of American power have been hit today by a series of devastating terrorist attacks. 2 planes attacked the World Trade Center in New York, sending the Twin Towers crashing to the ground in clouds of smoke and dust.
2001, a year into a new millennium, and the world had changed forever. The endless party of the 90s had ended in a biblical hangover, and the effects would ripple throughout culture. Faced with a new era of uncertainty, people began to spend big. Youth culture became youth consumerism, as the style tribes began to appropriate the clothes of the high street into something more provocative. Napster and LimeWire were the new nightclubs, and social media was the new catwalk. The sounds and styles of the streets had shifted once more.
And I'm miles ahead and they chase me. Show your face on TV, then we'll see. You can't do half my...
This is actually from May 2005, so 10 years ago, and it's really cool because 90% of the people in this are actually still relevant. In 2003 in East London, it was very, very different to it was now. You didn't go on Hackney Road. It was the Murder Mile. It was dark times. There wasn't a lot of opportunity. The youth clubs had been shut down. Everyone was going to UK garage clubs. If you were 18, 19, even myself at 21, 22, I didn't wear high heels, so I couldn't get into those clubs. So if you didn't wear head-to-toe Moschino or head-to-toe Versace, and you weren't into splashing champagne on dance floors, there wasn't really an avenue for you to hear music you wanted to hear. This was also the first time that we'd seen technology available to us that we could actually use, and we didn't need to learn how to go into a studio and operate a mixing desk.
Hello, what you call it? What you call it? What you call it? What you call it? Hello, yeah.
This was the declining garage scene's younger, angrier brother. The music was made on laptops and played out on pirate radio. The people making it had been denied club culture, but raised on mass culture. It was a frenetic, furious youth scene, built by technology and informed by the increasingly difficult circumstances around it.
That's a big question, what you call it?
Sub-low, dubstep, SE, frontline music.
What you call it?
I don't have a name for it.
New, something new.
It was a very, very different sound to anything we'd heard. So when we first heard it, we were referring to it as grimy garage because there were still elements of 4/4 and 2-step in it. But then grimy garage eventually got whittled down to grimy sounds and then became grime. The internet existed, but everyone was talking on forums. There was no Grime Daily, there was no SBTV as we have today. It was very much chat and a few photos, and then whatever the magazines were publishing.
I'm a pro, I'm clamping down youngers, taking big charts and moving out dancers. Here's MC, he's one of those pranks.
It was born out of the dirt of London, and it was like this birth of the DIY ethos, and the first time that I'd seen a UK movement that really embraced this idea of we're going to do it for ourselves, we're going to wear what we want, we're going to make the music we want, and screw everyone else. On a Saturday, you go and check out the latest DVDs. So Risky Roads, Target's Aim High, then you had the Eskimo Dance DVDs, as well as the Sidewinder ones. And this was the only way you could fully be embraced in the culture of grime. Things like Risky Roads were showing you this is what's going on in the street. And this was pre-YouTube. There wasn't WeTransfer or any of these other, file sharing services that we have now. We take it so much for granted.
Hello there, what's going on? Ape High, part 2, fucking up the streets. I want you to know that it's a sunny day. We're kind of warm on the streets, and I mean like metaphorically warm.
I wasn't going to raves at that point. I was too young for that. I think that was kind of around the time when like even having a fake ID didn't get you into anywhere. For me at that time it was more listening to music than making music. LimeWire was basically a peer-to-peer, which is like person-to-person, like sharing. You would kind of connect to someone else who had the tune and you could download it off them. I remember you'd be trying to download a whole batch of tunes. If someone went offline or something, you'd be like, it's 50%. Quality wasn't really an issue, especially when you're playing it on a tiny phone. There's a lot of violence and a lot of drug taking, a lot of drug dealing, a lot of things that almost forced the star at the time to be inconspicuous. You didn't want to be seen. You listen to the tunes and they're talking about it. They're talking about the life they're living, and I think that kind of spoke to the youth, made that underground culture.
The style of grime was utilitarian, anonymous, hardware for the roads. With its Air Force Ones, fitted caps, tracksuits and Averex jackets, it was part Wu-Tang, part jungle, part mass sportswear comfort.
The boys we're talking about that were making grime, they'd partly grown up on American hip-hop, but then they were also listening to garage and they were listening to jungle.
I love you, I love you.
You'd see lots of the American hip-hop styles coming over, so the massive Averex jackets, academics, tracksuits, and also people wearing stuff really baggy. So the kind of skinny jeans we see now, they never, ever, ever would have been allowed back in the day. I don't think you could even buy skinny jeans back then. Boiler suits though, that was the most iconic piece of clothing. So everyone had their own style of boiler suit. There was something anonymous about wearing a boiler suit and a cap. It was like the middle finger to the CCTV, or you go in the shop, no one knows who you are, you know. You can't be told to take your hood down if you haven't got one on. There was another side to the fashion as well, which was the garage side still coming through. People like Wiley, who actually made garage records, him was still wearing the Moschino and the Versace and the Iceberg. The Iceberg thing was the bomb at the time. Everyone wants to make money, obviously, and succeed and do the best they can as an artist. The harsh reality is when you enter a contract with a major label, you're entering a business deal, and that deal says you have to sell records. If the label say, we're going to put you in with this producer, this record's going to make you a good turnaround because you're going to get live bookings out of it, then why wouldn't you do it? Tinchy would have been a fool not to have done the records he did. Same with Tiny Temper, same with all the other guys who, maybe potentially lost their slight grime way. Sometimes a really good part of losing yourself or losing the music is when you do come back full circle, it's 10 times better. And that's the kind of position I feel we've got to now.
Whilst grime became the soundtrack for a rapidly transforming London, vast swathes of the country from Pitsea to Pontypridd had been taken over by a new youth culture imported from the United States. Emo came out of the hardcore punk scene and was so called due to the emotional content of the music. It seemed to appeal to a generation of suburban kids who were raised on Jackass, American Pie, and the new mega shopping complexes popping up around the country. Like grime, it was angry, but in an introspective and cautious way.
We'd missed the grunge movement, Cobain had killed himself long before I cared about music. The hardcore movement that had come out in the 80s, that died out in kind of 84, 85, and then you had the kind of post-hardcore movement. It kind of went away from the militant thing of the hardcore scene. They were bored with it, it became commercialised.
I hate that they say no dancing, blah, 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 that fucking PC shit. And you dance at hardcore shows and you fucking have fun.
Half my life was in London with my dad, and then my mum lived in Devon. We had these bands from America, so things like Fugazi, Embrace, Rites of Spring, and very few of them ever came to Devon. We were getting these skate videos come over, and that was a great way to get into music. Tony Hawk skateboarding, the soundtrack that went along to that was just kind of pivotal. So I guess it was more internalised. There wasn't the big rebellion, They're just going to rebel against your parents for being so supportive. It doesn't really make much sense. Going into secondary school, that's I think when you start to find out about different music, mainly because the older kids and what they're getting into.
Their stage shows and their albums are a scandal from coast to coast in the USA, and they make their UK TV debut right now, here, with Wait and Bleed, the one, the only, Slipknot!
A friend of mine, he taped that and brought it in. We wheeled in the school TV with the VCR, kind of trundled it along. They put this on, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Get out of my... It was loud, it was aggressive, it was in your face. And you're like, okay, yeah, I can buy into this. Nu metal went up and died very, very quickly, with only a few bands kind of lasting. So things like Korn and Limp Bizkit as this kind of rap metal, and and the look, the Adidas bagginess, I guess, was this kind of thing. Discussing the kind of genealogy of emo, post-hardcore and stuff, I think it's a kind of glimpse.
Most kids had previously been a modern amalgamation formed from the British tradition of heavy metal. Followers of the maligned nu metal and pop-punk sounds that landed on British shores around the turn of the millennium, bands like Limp Bizkit and Korn fused pop rap with MTV metal, then toned down the subtlety even further.
So, my friends, have you made the transformation?
The hybrid style of emo came from a number of sources. The rock and roll skinny jeans were worn low in a hip-hop style. The Vans trainers came directly from the DC punk scene. The high-maintenance hair and piercings had their lineage in the goth and metal scenes. It was androgynous, Americanized, and utterly teenage, a postmodern melding of recognizable subcultures.
Quite often, if you'd buy one that's too small, you'd have a t-shirt underneath that was slightly the same colour. Here's an example of the sewn in, I don't know how well you can see it. You'd make triangles at the sides and then you would sew them in, so you'd get that kind of skinny fit. You could only buy girls' jeans, there wasn't boys' skinny jeans. Going to buy them was somewhat awkward. The irony is that the people that used to give you shit for it, they wear skinny jeans now. The kind of emo label had like gendered connotations. The look reiterated that for people as well. The skinny clothes, spiked belts, you wear girls' jeans, straightening of the hair. A lot of friends, that's where they started getting involved, was getting the same haircuts. This wasn't stuff that we could buy in the shops. Even things like Kerrang weren't really involved in it. They got into it much later. So social media, MySpace, and things like LimeWire and Kazaa became really kind of fundamental. And things like MSN Messenger, where we would talk to one another. Oh, have you listened to this band? Have you checked out this band? And friends would have friends in. That's how you'd get people involved. And you'd have these kind of group chats, things going on. What bands do you like? And even things like the name on MSN Messenger, you could write, what you wanted to be. So often it would be some sort of lyric or whatever. Kind of, further aligning yourself within the scene.
As technology has become more accessible and more affordable, young people no longer rely on the old media empires to consume and create youth culture. The internet has meant that the world is well and truly in their hands. New networks and economies have been created by young people for young people. But with these new powers comes new responsibilities and new awareness.
The most desirable thing right now is
Make it fucked up. Make it fucked up.
I guess like
Make it fucked up.
what is the most desirable thing?
Spray paint the walls. Trash the halls.
Much in the same way that the Two-Tone Kids looked to the 60s and the Soul Boys looked to the America of the 70s, this as-yet unnamed youth tribe worship at the altar of the recent past. These new streetwear fiends are obsessed with the 90s aesthetic, the Creole gold of American R&B, with the Moschino and Versace pieces worn by the original Junglists, and the supreme lean of Larry Clark's Kids and Spike Jonze vids.
The appeal of high fashion for my generation is that, like, pretty much everyone wants to wear the same thing. They want to, like, own the same thing. The lifestyle of it's kind of like changed. It's too like competitive nowadays. Everyone kind of like wants to be like the biggest like reseller and like make the most money and like or like have the most like stuff, and it's just too like complicated. It's all about money, I guess, isn't it? Like if you have the money, then you can get it.
Hit the streets.
Supreme, like one of its like main things is like bringing fashion and music like together as like one.
Was smiling through his own personal hell, dropped his last dime.
They do like collaborations with like artists like Lou Reed here, 3 6 Mafia, Dipset's here somewhere. Yeah, here.
Welcome to New York City. Oh no, welcome to Dipset City.
I found out like about some of these people just through Supreme, and then just like brought their like CDs or like searched them up on the internet, as well as like them collaborating with like artists like Damien Hirst, Christopher Wall, Marilyn Minter. They just done like a collab with like Daniel Johnson, who like I'm a really big fan of. Yeah, Larry Clark, like I've seen all of his films. I guess it's like kind of wants to like relive like that film like Kids, doesn't it? It's all based on like the 90s, I guess, yeah. But most people just don't know that, they just follow the hype.
But it isn't just big brands that dictate this new youth aesthetic. This is a generation that has grown up with the internet, and they're using it to create a new culture with its own codes and idiosyncrasies.
So
I was at my friend's yard, and we were just chilling, and my friend was like, hey, watch this video. And me and my friends just crowd around the laptop. The visuals were Nintendo, Pokemon cards, and there was anime with some Arizona iced tea, just dancing around like this, rapping about being emotional, being sad, being a teenager, you know, with your woes and stuff like that. And we just kept on watching videos and videos, trying to find out who he is and what, you know, what he's repping. My friend saw on Tumblr, so we were looking on Tumblr all night. We were just like, who's Young Lean?
So you're the boy from Sweden that a lot of people are buzzing about. Do you want to talk about where you're from and what effect that has on your music?
I'm from Stockholm in Sweden, and I don't think it has any effect on my music at all.
Sad Boys is the Swedish collective that he's from.
Obviously, he's only like 18 or 19 now, so a lot of people could relate to it and liked what he was doing. He also kick-started off like the polo caps and the North Face coats, which everyone started wearing. Yeah, bucket hats.
These young style fanatics aren't just blind consumers. They've created their own economy, using new technologies to trade rarer, less available pieces with each other, making the high street look more redundant than ever.
There's pockets of different communities.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I think it's because of the clothes that you wear and the music you kind of listen to. And main thing to me were like brands like loads of Moschino, Burberry, as much stuff I could get my hands on. Everyone's just buying the big brand stuff for so cheap and then kind of relaying it. You can buy something on eBay for like £15 for like a Versace top. Then when you're kind of broke, you just sell it on Depop. Depop's a selling site. I would say it's like eBay, but a lot of younger people are using it. A lot of people selling one-off pieces that you can't get anywhere else. People follow you, like they find your Instagram or your Twitter, and from there they go onto your Depop. This is Moschino dress. I recently put this up and someone wanted to buy it for like £90. I paid about €30 for it.
But this is far from nostalgia or appropriation. It's simply how youth culture works. They move forward by looking back to create something which is informed by the past, but utterly of the present.
Since consumerism existed, people have been moaning about teenagers. People will always want things. They'll always want the newest things. They'll always want the latest things. It's just shifted a little bit, and instead of me buying a t-shirt because like Method Man's wearing it, it's just ASAP Rocky now. it keeps evolving, and that's what's fun. And what really is a change is the technological innovations that facilitate their consumerism.
It's easy to say that youth culture is dead. Nothing more than a middle-aged fallacy. Today we mature earlier and remain younger for longer. These are confusing times to be young, but simply a different set of complications to deal with. It is still just as important for youth to define itself against the confines of adolescence.
It was all about kind of that real feeling of getting away from your parents, wearing what you want to wear and doing just what you want to do.
I mean, most of us are really good kids. And, just enjoying ourselves, having a bit of a drink and generally admiring each other's scooters.
It was something where you kind of travel to get together with other people.
The streets of Britain will always be filled with young people finding solace from their circumstances with music and style. The enduring appeal of these style tribes is that as young people, they give us something else other than what we're offered, something to call our own.
When you add all the elements, all the social elements and the whole spectrum of all the nuances that make up a human being, from their parents to the society to the neighbours to the politics, you know, I do think, you know, you are created, a big percentage of you, by your society until you're old enough to sort of go through and find your own thoughts and own feelings.
No, my parents don't really care that much. They don't like it because they don't know what the hell I'm, you know, they don't see any future in it. You know, it's just, it's not what you wear, it's the way you are.
Every sort of new look is just a recreation of another period. It was just opening yourself up to things that people hadn't done before. We wanted to look different. We really wanted to look different. People will say, oh, you're putting yourself into a box, but you're not. You're being an individual, but you're being your own version of it.
Are you obsessed with style? Is that such a big thing in your life?
It's like my code in a way. It gives something to my life.
It's very much.
It's not a big deal at the same time. You know, there are higher things to think about, but I like clothes.
Yes, you're going to look perfect, but it's perfect in your way, and therefore that's how people wanted to replicate and embrace this newness, which was being put together in a way that British kids weren't putting it together.
I will not have anything without the right logo at the moment.
All the people that top casuals met, they buy it up and then they sell it straight away.
It's good for dancing, Tone. It's got more rhythm to it.
It's that thing of kind of having nothing but looking like $1 million.
There's a kind of sharpness of wit, you know, the way you danced, if you could pull the girls, you know what I mean? All these things were like just teenage rites of passage, really.
Basically, it's just world domination.
Every young person thinks they invented punk, and then they see the new people taking it over, and resistance happens, I think. And you see it in the cycles that are going on now.
I didn't second-guess the market. I didn't second-guess the zeitgeist. I just thought, this is what I want to represent as a young person. I want to show that I am, you know, clean and tidy and stylish, but I'm a rebel. All those words are kind of cliches with growing up and wanting to kind of break out and define something for yourself, even though generations did it before. When you get older, you recognise that.
Aside from the music and the clothes, these subcultures teach us about belonging, about a sense of community and fraternity, about expressing ourselves, about culture, identity and bravery, usually at a time in our lives when it seems the world won't listen. Being young in Britain has never been easy, but being part of a tribe makes it a lot more fun.